We need that information. Welcome back from the commercial break. Our discussion analyzing the economic opportunities for Uganda, especially dealing with other countries. And we have also a bit pointed out the aspect of governance. And in this discussion, these are matters of political economy and integration. But Major, it still remains a question of debate, but which has answers. We shouldn't take many lawyers to realize the benefit of why we should be dealing, why we should be in the East African Community bloc, why we are bringing maybe we've now brought Democratic Republic of Congo on, the government pays a lot, and also why we have not changed tremendously in checking what we also either import from these countries. And our economic policies determines where we can go, both, I believe, in governance as well. It is vice versa. You find that up to today, it's a positive, a realistic criticism to find that we are still importing, as a country, we are still importing second-hand clothes from these countries. And out of that, also what we are like, when they come, they say, we were saying it in our break, they say we don't want your final product of coffee. We need your coffee which is not improved. And which we find we are losing to them. For them they are giving us what they have used of. For us they want much more raw materials. Isn't it equal to the previous disadvantage which Africans we faced, where they were first fetching much more over raw materials and yet only targeting to have market from us? And it becomes vice versa. It should be us who should also target to balance the equation. Major, please, kindly
you have talked of two issues that we want to discount them. The first issue you have talked about is the economic blocks. The second issue you talked about is our relationship with the industrialized North.
Exactly.
So I start with the economic blocks. The economic blocks, of course, we have a lot of advantage in that, first of all, we have the free movement in the economic block. Secondly, meaning therefore we can buy and sell among ourselves. We, instead of the small Uganda market, you have a bigger market of East Africa or even Africa if that's the direction we have to take. So the advantages sounds by itself. And of course, like the East African bloc, we have a vision of a one unitary union and all the benefits that go with it. And countries that have gone there, they have best practices to show. So that is good enough. But also the other aspect which I now want to tie with the second issue of the economic North is that there is continuing to be an unfair trade system between us and the North. I already gave the example that if you compare from the 1960s to today, the number of bags of coffee that would buy one Land Rover has continued to increase, and yet Land Rover has continued to be the one same unit. Now, one way of a remedy that is, of course, that you could add value addition to coffee so that you sell it at a much higher price. But the negotiation, these guys, the intrinsic negotiating capacity is that those who are buying our coffee now, they are also now trying to make a counter argument in their benefits to the effect that they are saying you want value addition in your coffee. For us, the buyers, we want your coffee without value addition.
We want the raw beans.
We want the raw beans. Now, this becomes a problem. The only remedy to this is now the unity. Because if Uganda decides to sell at a given price, some other country will sell at a lower price. This is why many leaders, including President Museveni, is talking of the unity, the regional bloc, the unity of Africa. And the unity of Africa Museveni is talking about is not merely a political unity, that gives you economic strength to negotiate. Because if we are selling our raw material and we are talking as one voice, even the other party who is talking strongly, we are saying we want to add value and sell to you. They are saying no, we want the raw one. If we are talking together with one voice, we are able to negotiate. If we are independent, remember together we stand, divided we fall.
Yeah.
So the two issues are like that. The regional blocks, which we have, now we talk of Congo. Bring Congo, of course, is additional value. It has vast resources, it is a big area, it has a big market. I think it's now the third largest in population in Africa, after Nigeria and I think Ethiopia. Congo is a big country. So the advantages of regional blocks with the vision of going forward to unity, economic and monetary, and the advantages to negotiate with the industrial north, which relationship has continued to widen up to now.
Thank you so much. We will be looking further in that point, and where I will find that the relationship which is supposed to have attributed us much more of the advantages. And you had stated before that even if our currency, I was also talking about the issue of currency, that it just became one monetary currency, still it will not be solve the major problem, which is all about what exactly do we produce, how many bags do we produce.
Even if you went to Mitiana and bought coffee in dollars, even if you went to Mpigi and bought coffee in dollars, not Uganda shillings, as long as you bring the coffee and you are going to buy the value of that coffee which you bought in dollars, not even Uganda shillings, as long as it is unfair in what you are buying from the north, you will still remain in the same.
Thank you, Major. To you, the investment manager, the banker, Uganda remains at a disadvantage in competing, especially in the financial sector, the banking sector, where most of the around 60%, if not 70% of the banking institutions in Uganda, not meaning Bank of Uganda, I mean these other commercial banks, they are foreign based, and their interests, which are sucking into the pockets of our Ugandans, are always higher. Never talked about it depends on how we negotiate. What has gone wrong? Is it because the Bank of Uganda has been not able to negotiate for our citizens that are doing business and life becoming harder because their interest rates is higher? You talk about Equity Bank from here, Kenya. You talk about their money. You mention them. You are far, placed than me. What can we do to solve that? Number two, we also would like to hear from you how we can go out of this challenge, especially caused by our internal policy makers in terms of investment. You talked about the issue of coffee, where the countries, if we are not united, they can come and dictate which price to give us. But we also have the scenario now back home here locally, our relationship with these investors who are coming from these other countries. Like previously, this still, it's not yet forgotten. And maybe the parliament tried to handle it, but we've not yet known the end, where an Italian investor is given a monopoly to buy in whatever price he likes. How are we going to benefit from such a kind of exploitative, monopolistic investors? Come on, please, our bank and investor. Maybe we can get a lot from you in this discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor. You raised two issues. You have raised the issue on interest rates.
Yes, financial sector.
Yes, you have also raised the issue of
investors,
monopolies in some of our key sectors.
Yes.
On interest rates, I don't want to agree with you, Doctor, that the situation is that very bad.
22% is not very bad.
The situation is not that very bad. And I'm looking at it in this way. We have a very stable financial sector, which has weathered various storms. You can imagine what happens if, for example, we have a meltdown in our financial sector, what it means. So we have a very well regulated financial sector. In terms of regulation, there could be some gaps here and there, but Bank of Uganda is doing a very good job in regulating the financial sector. Number two, interest rates. The interest rate is driven by a number of factors. One of them is cost, the price of money. Where are we getting our money from? I may not have the statistics offhand, But what is our saving culture like in this country?
Let's come back a bit and allow me to come in. My concern is most of our banks, the foreign banks, remember our topic we are dealing with, our relationship with other countries.
Yes.
And some of these countries, look at Stanbic Bank, of course it's believed to be having a strong base relationship of investors from South Africa. Look at Equity Bank and others. The way how they have dealt with us here in Uganda to benefit from them, much as we appreciate part of the services given to us, but most of the citizens feel a pinch, especially because of their services which looks to be expensive.
And that's where I was coming. I appreciate what you're raising, and that's where I was coming.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted for someone listening to us to appreciate that banks don't just sit there and they set interest rates. They are key drivers of these interest rates. And the issue, addressing the issue of capital, where do we access capital and at what price? Do we have internal savings as a country? Do we actually save so that we can cushion ourselves against some of these interest rates that come from countries outside us? Because most of our capital is coming from outside. And that is why, from a policy perspective, that's why there is a quiet agenda to push some of these banks to list on the stock exchange, on the Ugandan stock exchange, so that Ugandans can buy shares in these and be owners in these banks. In a way, you have dealt with issues of capital flight, especially after these banks have declared dividends. So it's a bit of a challenge for us to address, but someone to come here and tell you that interest rates are going to come down today, that person would be lying to you. So what needs to be dealt with?
Yes.
From a policy perspective, and I've been thinking personally, can we have sector-wise banks owned by government, but also on a commercial basis? For example, can we have back an agricultural bank? Can we have a construction bank? But also we need to bear in mind that we are operating a liberalized economy where prices are determined by demand and supply. But at that regime, and see how can we harmonize it with our operating environment.
Finance, what is it supposed to be?
Pardon?
Housing Finance Bank, what is it about?
Housing Finance is mainly a development bank in the area of housing. It's about 4 years about
Thank you.
that the bank ceased being a development bank and was given a tier 1 license to operate as a commercial bank. But it's still work in progress.
Thank you so much. We are drawing towards the close of our program, and we are finalizing on our relations. And these relations, a wise child when you go to, a wise son when he goes to among many tribes and knows how to identify, I'm just using a proverb, and knows how to identify what is good benefits, what's good benefits. Our case scenario, how we have dealt with in this East African bloc, leaves unresolved maybe question, especially as we said, our integration, how we deal with these other countries. Major, how are we going now to be very firm and sure that as we deal in the East African bloc, the East African bloc, has it gained the strength that will be the capability and the capacity to resolve whether political, whether governance, whether economic issues as a bloc? The reason why I would like us to draw toward that, conclusive remark and maybe recommendation what should be done best. We've had at times conflicts in our East African bloc in the East African bloc, and you find one country is having challenge, and yet one country, this bloc cannot prevail over them. And finally, it affects our economic well-being of citizens. What should be done? And finally, what should we give as a recommendation to citizens on how best to tell the opportunities of these countries? But the first one is very pertinent, Major.
Well, East African Community Bloc is a developing body. We have seen similar bodies in SADC, we have seen similar bodies in ECOWAS, similar bodies in Europe. And by the way, the East African community that was started earlier in the 60s was even ahead of European Union or European community that has now developed. So we missed that opportunity. However, as it is now, it's a young body. We could say that the only advantage we have is that we have leaders who are committed to it, like President Museveni is committed to it. But, like any family has its challenges. The document that gave birth to it, the instrument that gave birth to it, is quite elaborate, well discussed, well negotiated. If set to operate, it would achieve its objective. But of course, now you see, like in a situation where we, like Uganda, Rwanda border was closed over a period of time, we are in the same economic bloc, we are in the same community, but no practical relation came up quickly. So those are the challenges. So, if you ask me what
should be done,
is that
benefit us.
We should get back to the instrument as it is. Let it work. Get to the time frame, because many of the objectives have time frame, time set, so that we really make good advantage of this. But it is a well-conceived idea, well negotiated, well discussed. The instruments are in place. We should let it grow. We should nurture it. And of course, the other inherent problems there is that our countries are poor. You will notice that there's some money which we pay as membership. Some of our countries have not been able to pay their membership, and they go in areas. So, if you have a community, you have 5 people or 8 people, and you agree that the group of 8 of us are going to be together, and when we are going to be together, we are going to be pulling something from the pocket to make our system operate. And 2 or 3 Mr. John or Kel or Tumusime can't pull, that itself becomes a challenge to the group of the 8. And it is on record that some sovereign states in the community have not been able to pay their membership, and this frustrates or impedes the implementation of the community.
It is believed that one of the reasons impede the implementation of the community, that in terms of governance, especially the legal framework, change of term limits, when one president comes, another goes, there also some express disappointment with Uganda, that Uganda, the kind of changing presidency in terms of, transiting from one president to the other, they tend to remain on with one president, and it gives them fear that maybe this president wants to rule them. What do you say?
I don't think that is true, because it is a thoroughly negotiated instrument. And things that needed to be unified were brought forward. For example, they brought forward the system of judiciary. Kenya had a court up to a high court. They said no, we should all raise our judiciary system to Supreme Court. Okay? Even education is being a set uniform. So if it was in the spirit that the government system be uniform, it would have come. It is not there. Clear things that needed to be made uniform are set out in the instrument. Make your judiciary this, make your this, make education system this. So everything was set in place. So in the instrument, the governance structure as per those claims are not there. If somebody wants to bring it, then let it be brought, and the structures are there to discern it. But we are almost all the time. But I want to say that in all these in all our interaction with states, let's be mindful of quality. And that is why our friends take advantage. For example, you have mentioned that the coffee, the European Union, for example, when they wanted fish in Lake Victoria, they ensured quality assurance. They provided money to provide for capturing the fish, putting the fish in the boat, taking it to the factory, working on it, putting it in the aeroplane. So they provided quality assurance.
Thank you so much. Ugandans, those who are dealing with trade, those who are in the economic chain, please stop producing substandard good meat from the neighboring countries and even the countries abroad. Quality assurance is very important. If you don't want to run behind. Thank you for that strong statement. I will go with it tonight. Let's also receive your last remark just in 1 minute.
No, thank you so much, Doctor, and thank you for the show. It is more beneficial for us to work together as Africans, as citizens of this world. The benefits outweigh the challenges. Like you have put it, us participating in these regional blocks, engaging with the different countries, it gives us opportunities for, especially for market of our products. So the key step for us to take as citizens of this country is let's work, let's produce as markets are being sourced.
Thank you so much for being with us on Smart 24 TV, but that I have here the one who represents us on the side of the government. Make sure always you negotiate for us very well so that our country remains safe. We don't be sold to the Chinese, we don't be sold to the Russians, we remain keeping intact our civilization.
We shall train our negotiators.
Thank you so much. Please, thank you to have been with us, dear viewers. Smart 24 TV, and we are very much, strong and visible on GoTV 394. That is also how you can access us and keep with us. God bless you until next time. Thank you, dear guests have come.
Thank you, sir.
Be with us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.